Okay, people, you have saw part one, you have saw part two. This is the third and final video of the 75-year-old man, Terence William Brazil, now faces multiple charges linked to the fatal stabbing of 61-year-old Susan Dillow inside his Stewart County residence. Let's see if Judge Wolf is going to let Mr. Brazil walk free or will he get prison time. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel as we're going to keep dropping great videos on this platform.
Well, good morning. We are before we bring the jury back, I'd like to deal with this state special request for jury instructions and to see if there are any other issues regarding the proposed final charge that we've drafted.
I think we have an agreement in the special instruction.
All right.
Yes, sir. No, Judge.
You have an agreement, what?
That will be a special instruction by agreement.
Okay, well, I'm going to change some of the language to it. And my proposal would be, and I'll draft this and have Ms. McKinney go through it. The elements of premeditation and deliberation are questions of fact, which may be established by the proof of the circumstances surrounding the killing, and omitting the citation. The jury doesn't need to see the case law. There are several factors which, if established by the evidence, tend to support the existence of these elements, which include, and then go from there. Anybody have any problems with that? Then let me, Mr. Kenny, if I can give this to you to make that change. Not sure what happened here. Anything else, Mr. Crouch?
Yes.
We just lose. Why am I out? Go ahead, Mr. Crouch, if you need to.
Judge, on page 11 of 17 of the jury instructions, bottom of the page, paragraph starts as heretofore, the indictment of defendants charged in count 4 with crime of aggravated cruelty to animals. For you to find the defendant guilty of this offense. Turning to page 12, the state must have proven the unreasonable doubt. And I think after doubt, the elements of the crime should be inserted.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. It's omitted the elements of the crime. You see that? All right. We'll take care of that. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Mr. Turnbow, not me. I'm not a proofreader.
Who?
Mr. Turnbow.
Oh, is that the guy in the corner? You mind getting a name tag for the next time we have to? You missed that. Well, I guess, Mr. Crouch, you may or may not have been here this morning. I could not call his name, his last name. I've known him for years. All right, we are ready then for the jury after those changes. Any other changes to the charge? We'll make those changes and we'll have that ready for the jury whenever the closing arguments are concluded. We are ready to bring the jury. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody have a good evening, I hope. And we are ready to start back with our proofs. And we expect to finish this trial today if all goes well. So thank you for your patience. I assume everybody followed my instructions about not trying to read anything about this case or look at anything. So, all right, the state is still putting on their evidence, so the state may call your next witness.
This thing calls Tommy Mecklenburg, Your Honor. Judge, may I ask for the rule, this Laura Roberts is here in the crowd. I'd like to ask her to step out.
But the rule has been requested earlier in the trial, so anyone who may be a potential witness must step outside of the courtroom and remain outside of the courtroom. You're not to discuss the testimony of any other witness. So this lady has been in here during some of the testimony, but you're asking her to step out now.
Please.
Ma'am, if you'll please step out, you have been identified as a potential witness, so you'll need to step outside of the courtroom. So
I'll let her know here to say, just stand right.
raise your
there.
right hand and face our clerk, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Yes.
Thank you. Our mics are pretty good. They may ask you to stand up, speak up into it. Okay.
You may have to scoot up a little bit. There you go. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning.
Could you state and spell your last name for the record, please?
Mecklenburg, Mecklenburg.
Where do you live, Mr. Mecklenburg?
In Darlington, Indiana,
About how far is that from here?
just shy of 400 miles.
You should know because you just drove it last night.
Correct. Left at 4 o'clock yesterday. Yes.
What do you do in Indiana?
I own a detailing company.
Was, give me 1 second. Was a Michael Dillo employed by you?
Yes,
Was he not only employed by you, but resided with you while he was working with you?
correct.
How long did he work with you?
6 to 7 months.
What was the time span there?
Right after Thanksgiving till early April, late March.
Of 2022.
Correct.
And was he with you October the 18th, 19th, 20th of 2021?
Yes,
How can you be certain of that?
because he was at my house.
He was there when you went to bed at night,
Correct. Yeah.
there when you woke up in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
Did he have a car?
No,
How did he get around?
if you need to go somewhere, I usually put the town's small enough to where you can walk anywhere you need to go.
But you know for certain that he was there on October the 19th of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been asked that before by any law enforcement agency?
Yes,
Who was it? Do you remember?
he was a detective from the Indiana State Police Department.
Indiana State Police.
Correct.
No further questions, Judge.
Mr. Clemens, you have questions?
Can you tell me your name again?
Eric Mecklenburg.
Mecklenburg.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mecklenburg, how long have you known Michael Dillon?
Since 2006.
2006, that's a long time. How do you know him?
We went to college together. He's my brother.
Have you ever discussed with him his relationship with his mother?
Yes.
And not saying whether it's necessarily true or not, but what impression did you get from him about his relationship with his mother?
That he hadn't talked to her for a long time.
And do you know when he did get reconnected with her?
I know that it was. I don't know. I can't speak for that.
You said he worked for you for about 6 or 7 months. Is that right?
Correct.
What time period was that?
Well, he came, I remember he was there for Thanksgiving. And he'd been there for 5 or 6 weeks prior to that. At least.
Okay. Would that be it? Are you talking about in the year 2021?
Correct.
The she was killed on around October 19th,
Okay.
sometime around then. He was, and it sounds like he was with you in Indiana at that time.
Yes, he was staying in my home office.
Okay.
All right.
Would you describe your relationship with him as friends? You said you knew him since you were fraternity brothers.
At
right?
that time, we were really close.
Really close? Okay. Had you ever gotten to meet Susan Dillo yourself in person?
I'm sure.
From the impression that you got from him, what kind of person was she?
A loving mother, loved animals.
Did he ever talk about her to you?
Yeah.
How often was he talking with his mother?
When he had moved in with me, I don't think he talked to her for a little while.
Do you know where he had been living right before that? That he came in to live with you?
I picked him up at a double wide trailer in his girlfriend's house. And so I don't remember the address.
Was it right near where his mother lived?
I believe it was.
And in your dealing with him, do you think there was any hostility at all between him and his mother?
Absolutely not.
And do you think that there would be any reason to want to wish her any harm?
Absolutely not. No.
From your, did you get to speak with him after he had learned of what happened to his
There wasn't much speaking to him. He was so distraught. I mean, he was tore up. It was bad. Yeah, I came home from the job site that day because I had jobs at my shop and I was somewhere else.
And did he say anything to you about her?
Just that his girlfriend called and said there was a bunch of police down at her house. And he didn't know what was going on. He was crying. And then 30 minutes later, I got a call from my wife at the time. Said that he had told me what had happened and she had been hugging him for about half an hour because he couldn't stop crying.
Understood. No further questions, Your Honor.
Can you redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Mecklenburg. You are free to step down. Are we releasing him from the subpoena? Mr. Hall, do we need him to stay around or are we releasing him?
No, Your Honor.
You are free to stay or you're free to go. Thank you. Call your next witness.
The state calls Carolyn Shelton.
Please step up, ma'am, and raise your right hand.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let you adjust that way with me, okay?
Good morning.
Good morning.
You state your full name, please.
My name is Carolyn Shelton.
And where are you employed?
I'm employed at the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
What do you do there?
I am a special agent forensic scientist.
And on October the 19th and 20th of 2021, were you assigned to the BCRT unit?
Yes,
And did you come to Stewart County?
yes, I did.
Did you go to 154 Commissary Road in Stewart County?
Yes, I did.
What was your job duty at that scene?
I was the serologist or the DNA person for that scene.
As the serologist, did you have specific assignments at the crime scene?
Yes, I did.
And what were those?
It would be looking for bodily fluids such as blood, saliva, or even touch DNA.
Did you actually collect some evidence while you were at the scene?
I did.
And what pieces of evidence did you?
There were multiple things that I collected, including swabbing different areas of the house that I perceived as possible reddish brownish stains. I believe I collected some items from the living room and some clothing from the bathroom.
I want to direct your attention to the screen. What has previously been marked as Exhibit 13. This photograph, can you see it okay?
Yes.
Can you identify what this is?
You need to stand to be able to see it.
I'm okay, thank you.
Can you identify this?
Yes, that would be the chair that was in the living room.
Did you collect evidence from this chair?
I did.
And what evidence did you collect from this chair?
On the chair, on both of the arms, there were sleeves, and we collected both of those.
And when you're talking about sleeves, is this one of the sleeves?
It is.
Where we see kind of this distinction between the actual piece of furniture and the cover?
Yes,
That's one sleeve.
yes,
And was there another sleeve on this side?
there is.
How do you refer to those when you collect couch covered chair or couch, I'm sorry, arm chairs, or
Arm sleeves, yes,
arm sleeves? I've messed up the word, so, which is actually why you're testifying today, is that right?
I believe so, yes.
We invited you to testify to clarify what we're calling a clerical mistake, is that correct?
Yeah.
You personally collected the sleeve covers from these chairs.
That is correct.
Now, we've heard testimony about a couch sleeve cover. Was a couch sleeve cover ever collected?
No, it was not.
It was not. The only covers that were collected came from this chair.
Yes,
And And how do you go about collecting and gathering these items?
My job is obviously to help protect the DNA that might be present on a piece of evidence. So during this process, I am wearing gloves. And so as it happens, someone else on my team is typically getting a brown paper bag, writing on there what the item is, where it's coming from, who is collecting it, my initial. And so that way they're able to hold the bag open. So while I have my gloves on, I can just take the piece of evidence and drop it into the bag. So that's how that occurred here.
And may I approach the
You
witness?
may.
Can you identify this item?
Yes, this is one of the arm sleeves, from the chair in the living room.
Let's go through some of the identifying marks on the actual bag. Can you show that to the jury and how it's recorded?
Yes, so like I said, we like to put the location and what the item is. So this would be the second chair arm cover from chair in living room. We put the time it was collected. These are my initials. And then we always have the agency case number on it as well and what item it is.
And that specifically says chair arm cover.
It does.
So that one is correctly labeled,
Yes,
and those are your initials.
they are my initials.
And can you tell the jury how your initials have changed?
Yes, when I went on this scene, this is my maiden name. So at that time, my name was Carolyn Wilkinson. Since this, I've gotten married, so now my last name is Shelton.
And Agent Shelton, there's some scissors to your right and gloves. You would open the package and show the jury.
She brought her own scissors. There we go.
And I want them to see both the inside and exterior. All right. And Agent, from this item you're holding now, are there any obvious blood stains or RBS?
None that I can see. However, my colleague who did the actual DNA testing on this, she has made a cutting, so I presume there may have been some RBS in that area.
Thank you. We can repackage that. They would move this item as the next exhibit.
Okay, is the next exhibit in order?
And Agent, can you identify this?
Yes, this is marker number 8, item 5. It is the couch arm cover from living room.
Now, I've already given some testimony that no couch arm cover was collected.
That is correct.
So has this package been mislabeled?
Yes.
All right, and how do you know that?
Like I said, I was the one that physically collected the sleeves from the chair, and so we collected both sleeves from that chair, but no sleeves were collected from the couch.
If you would open that. And now please show the jury the front and the back. Can you describe if you see any RBS or blood stains on this item?
Again, not specifically, but there is another area cut out, which I presume was from my colleague doing DNA testing.
And if you could repackage that, and state what this item is the next.
We'll mark it next in order.
Now, Agent Shelton, you testified that no cover was collected from the couch. Did you personally observe the couch and the couch cover while you were at the scene?
I did.
Can you describe the amount of the couch cover sleeve?
There was a lot. There was one specifically under her, and so that one was fairly saturated in RBS.
And that one was not collected.
That is correct.
It can be distinguished from the chair covers because it has so much more blood staining.
Yes,
And these two, as you demonstrated, have very little amount.
correct.
I'll pass the witness.
Clemens, you will cross-examine.
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Agent. You may step down and we'll release you from your subpoena. State may call your next witness.
State calls April Ramlich.
Unless I know you testified the other day, but we're going to place you under oath again if you'll raise your hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you state your name for the record?
My name is April Bramlage.
And thank you for coming back today.
Sure.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions just to clarify maybe some clerical errors that were created in the documentation of this case.
Okay.
I want to ask you about chair arm covers that were collected October the 19th, 2020.
Okay.
Can you tell us how you received these and how they were labeled when you do the documentation?
So when we're processing the scene, like I mentioned in the previous testimony, we're going to lay markers down on items of evidence we deem that we're going to take back to the laboratory. So with this chair, which was as you first walked into the home, that chair right in front of you, marker 8 was as you're facing the chair, the right side of the chair.
And I'm going to ask you to look at the screen.
Mhm.
And what's previously been marked in our case is Exhibit 13. Is this the chair you're describing?
That is.
Go ahead.
And the chair, the cover, as you're looking at that photograph, the right, that was labeled marker 8, has some reddish brown staining on it. And then as we were processing through the scene and kind of wrapping things up, one of the scientists working the scene noticed some reddish brown staining on the opposite cover to the chair. And this was after we had done our markering and measuring and everything, kind of in that tossing phase of the house I talked about earlier. So we decided to collect that as well and bring it back to the laboratory.
So I'm now going to hand you what has been marked as Exhibit number 83 in this trial. And can you identify that one? Well, let's start with just the outside.
Okay, so this is marker number 8, listed as item 5 by evidence receiving when we came back. It says couch arm cover from living room with the initials of Carolyn Wilkinson who collected it. So this would be that right
Okay,
arm cover.
so can't see marker number 8 in this photograph, but your testimony is that marker 8 was right.
Correct.
Now, is that package labeled correctly?
So this package says couch arm cover from living room. Obviously, that is a chair, so that is just a clerical mistake of writing couch versus chair.
Okay. And if you would identify what has previously been marked in this trial as Exhibit number 84.
So this is labeled second armchair cover from chair in living room with Carolyn Wilkinson's Judge Donato collecting it, evidence receiving it labeled item 16. So this would be the opposite arm cover on that chair that you see in the photographs.
And is this one correctly labeled?
It is.
So Agent Bramlage, we heard testimony from both myself and Agent Lisa Forrester yesterday of how items are collected and taken to the TBI lab for processing. We now have an exhibit, which is a lab report from Agent Forrester. And it says, it appears that there are 2 couch covers collected instead of 2 chair covers. Is that a mistake?
That is my mistake. So when I submitted the evidence into evidence receiving, they were gonna go off of what I wrote on that form. And on that form, I wrote for item number 5, couch arm cover 1 of 2. And I wrote on the form for item 16, couch arm cover 2 of 2. So she was just going off of what I had handwritten in evidence receiving, and evidence receiving is going off of me. So that is my mistake of writing couch versus chair.
Okay. But in this case, we know that it's actually 2 covers collected from the chair and 0 covers collected from the couch.
That is correct. We did not collect any covers from the couch.
So if we're looking at this lab report and it says couch, it should mean chair.
Correct. You can interpret that to mean the chair.
So is that a clerical error?
That is my clerical mistake, yes.
And finally, Agent, if you can identify this document.
So this is a copy of a handwritten diagram drawing that Rebecca Hernandez, who was my documenter that night, made at the scene.
And if you would just briefly describe the scene, just the layout of the rooms to the jury. please.
Your Honor, object, this is a hearsay. This is a statement created by a third party out of court. It's like being off to prove the truth of the object.
I can certainly lay a foundation.
Pardon?
I can lay a foundation.
I'll reserve ruling on the objection until a foundation is laid.
Agent Bramlage, were you at the crime scene on October 19th, 2021?
I was.
Are you familiar with that crime scene?
I am.
Did you go in and out of every room in this residence
Yes, multiple times.
multiple times? Did you go to the exterior of the house?
I did.
Did you go into exterior garages and sheds?
I did.
Did you look inside a Kia Sorento?
I did.
Did you collect video from tours of this house and these sheds and cars?
We did collect video, yes.
So you're intimately familiar with the layout of this house.
Yes, I was there the entirety that we were there processing.
Have you observed and reviewed someone else's rendering diagram of this house?
I have.
Does their rendering appear to be how you remember the house?
It does.
That would be the foundation.
I withdraw the objection.
Right, I believe that's been established as accurate as a photograph, so we're going to go ahead and allow her to introduce it.
And if you would describe the diagram, jury, please.
So the diagram is drawn just as if you've walked in the front door. Just kind of labeled here, the front porch, the stairs leading up to the front porch. I know front porch is far away. But you enter the home, you have the living room. There was a bedroom just behind that, so we call it bedroom 1. Just to the right of that, there's a small bathroom. You labeled it bathroom 1. If you were to go through the living room and hang a right, you're going to go through the kitchen. If you just look to the left of the kitchen, there was a door to a bedroom. We call it bedroom 2. Come back out of the bedroom, back in the kitchen, continue forward. You're going to see the entertainment room. And to the left of the entertainment room, there was bathroom 2. There's also an exterior door of the entertainment room where you could go out of the home. She's labeled, where some pertinent pieces of furniture are, couch, here's the deceased on the couch, the chair that we just spoke of, kitchen table, kitchen sink, the orange chair that we collected these photos off of. So there are some pertinent pieces of furniture labeled as well.
Thank you. And I asked for you to describe the diagram specifically referencing bathrooms 1 and 2, because while you were at the scene, evidence was collected and referenced as bathrooms. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll move that diagram as the state's next exhibit. I'll pass it over.
Clemens?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, may I ask permission to have us retrieve the exhibit? It's the bag with the dog collar on the far left there.
You know which the exhibit number is?
Believe it's 54 or 55.
So
Mid-50s.
we'll let the clerk sort through it.
Or I may be getting it mixed up with the photograph of it. Do we have gloves? There we go. I want to ask you about this. This may become important. Yes, please.
Okay.
Could you tell us which exhibit it should be on that blue sticker there? Which exhibit number is this for court purposes?
This says exhibit 56.
Okay. Now, do you remember what's in this bag?
I did not collect this bag.
Do you know who collected that? What's in that bag? Is it possible to tell?
Looking at how the bag is labeled, it says Special Agent Jay McGowan.
Okay. And is there any way to tell? I want to use the term chain of custody. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Who all has touched that since wherever it was found? Is there any way for us to figure that out?
I do not have that documentation. That would be something that would have to be retrieved off our information management system through the computer.
All right. Is all the evidence turned over to you personally at some point?
The evidence that we collect on the scene, yes, that is turned over to me. Occasionally, evidence will be given, transferred to me to go. Now that I'm thinking about this. So this was given to me that I did submit through the laboratory. So this was given to me by an agent on the scene, asking me to transport it and submit it to the laboratory, which I did.
Is there any way to tell when the last time, before we opened it in court the other day, when the last time that was open? Has it ever been open since that was put in the bag?
It does not appear to have been open prior to this cutting right here.
Could you pull that collar out of there for us, please? Now, do you remember yesterday when you had that, do you remember if that collar was closed or open?
I have never seen this dog collar before.
You didn't pull that out yesterday, and who opened that bag yesterday?
I have no idea.
Perhaps I'm misremembering then. But then it seems like this bag was given to you at some.
I've never seen this before.
Never seen that before. So
Never
that's
seen
not part of your evidence at all?
This is evidence that was given to me by an agent on scene and asked me to submit it to the laboratory for them with my things.
That's how so you just took that and submitted it to the lab.
Correct.
Gotcha.
I was like a courier for them.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay.
Can you redirect? Thank you, Agent. You may step down and we're releasing her until the next time we need to call her back, so. Right. State may call your next witness.
Judge, if we could have this one,
All right.
we don't need a jury out.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll step out to the jury room for a moment, let me consider.
So we don't
You don't need a jury. Stay where you are.
State rest this case.
Ladies and gentlemen, the state has rested its case. So that's all the evidence that you're going to hear from the state. Now I will ask you to step back to the jury room, if you will, for a moment. Let me take care of a couple of matters. Mr. Clemens, the state has rested. Do you wish to offer any proof?
Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a brief recess to be able to confer with my client about such things. Would that be allowed?
Be allowed. How long do you feel like you need?
I have about 15 minutes, please.
We'll give you 15 minutes. I'll inform the jury that, are you going to confer with them here in the courtroom? I'm going to allow the jury to go ahead if they want to take a smoke break or whatever. even though we've only been going for about 40 minutes. Let's let them have that opportunity. And then we will go forward with whatever you decide to do. Obviously, we'll need to have a hearing to determine what your client decides to do about testifying.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll stand in recess.
Let me get my hands wiped off.
That's right.
No, no.
Take your time.
They'll stick to the keys.
But are we ready, Ms. Pam?
Yes.
Clemens, what's your decision?
Your Honor, well, first ask if I may make a motion for a judgment of acquittal as to
You may.
offenses. Voting here. Your Honor, it's as to the false report charge. I want to make a motion for judgment of acquittal on that. Pretty basic. Charge of filing a false report for these jury instructions. He proved that the defendant initiated a report or statement to a law enforcement officer concerning an offense or an incident within the officer's concern, and that the defendant knew that the information relating to the offense reported was false. Now, I believe that initially there was an issue in this case when Officer Grizzard went out to the scene. It was being treated as a medical issue, not as a homicide. But I think the proof established that that was really more of a mistake on the government's part and their systems of transferring information through dispatch. And the 911 call did not contain any false statements of fact by my client. Second theory that the state is likely to have is that his statements about the incident where Michael Dillow had poured hot coffee on his head and injured Miss Susan Dillow, that might have been false, or that it might have been for that plus the truth, which was that Michael Dillow had sent a Facebook message that was threatening, that was enough to count as a misleading statement, as if he had been deceiving Deputy Grizzard. And there was a statement that I objected to that Deputy Grizzard was not allowed to answer, which was the follow-up question. And I think we have a pretty good idea of what the state was hoping he would say. He was going to say, and those things deceived me into thinking that Michael Dillow was a suspect. I think that's what the state's theory is. That's no doubt what they wanted Officer Grizzard to say. But if we reviewed that testimony, the last question I asked him was essentially, did my client make any statements to you that were false? And his answer was no. There are no statements of fact that were put on that was relevant to this investigation that were in and of themselves untruthful. There might be an inference of untruth. Certainly in retrospect, from the state's perspective, you can infer that he wasn't being entirely honest, because their theory is that Mr. Brazil did the killing. And so therefore, any statement that wouldn't indicate that might be seen as a false report. But simply not confessing to a crime that the state believes you committed is not filing a false report. And making true statements of fact would have to be shown to be really misleading and undoubtedly and objectively so in order to sustain a charge like this. I think that there is reasonable doubt here. I think Your Honor should find that this question should not go to the jury.
Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Crouch?
Judge, just briefly, the 911 call clearly contains a false statement. Defendant calls 911 and says he comes home to find Ms. Dillow had been stabbed. But it goes further. Not only does he say that to 911, he has created this impression that he was absent from Stewart County to support his false statement to law enforcement. We know that because he's picked up on 4 or 5 different license plate readers driving throughout West Tennessee to, again, create his absence from the jurisdiction in support of his statement to law enforcement, which was that he came home and found that she had been stabbed. Not only that, on video, in his interview with the TBI, he says, and I'm quoting, the story about Mikey Dillow was, quote, bullshit. Clearly a false report, acknowledges the false
Motion for judgment of acquittal is pursuant to Rule 29 of the Rules of Criminal Procedure, and the grounds for judgment of acquittal are on subsection B, which states that on the defendant's motion or on its own initiative, the court shall order the entry of judgment of acquittal of one or more offenses charged in the indictment, presentment, or information after the evidence on either side is closed, if the evidence is insufficient to sustain a conviction of such offense or offenses. In this court's opinion, the evidence is clearly sufficient to sustain a conviction of giving false information. And the evidence that has been introduced is that the call to the 911 and the statements to the investigating officer were clearly contradicted by Mr. Brazil in his statement to the TBI during the interview with him, in which he does remark that his statements or that story was a BS story. So I find that there is sufficient evidence to sustain a conviction. Therefore, the motion for judgment of acquittal as to that count is respectfully denied. Do we have any other issues that we need to address before we bring the jury back?
Yes, Your Honor. My client has asked, and I think this is permissible, but I wanted to make sure that Your Honor did allow it. He has asked if I would call one witness, Laura Roberts.
All right. Is your client intending to testify?
And that then he'd be allowed to make his decision whether to testify.
Well, he'll be allowed to make it, but we're not taking another recess. We've given him ample opportunity overnight and today to make that decision. So you want to call Laura Roberts?
Yes, please.
All right. Then we're ready to bring the jury back in, and we'll advise them that, yes, sir.
And may I speak briefly with the DA about Ms. Roberts before?
Certainly.
Very briefly. Yes, sir.
Judge, I was gonna object. Next witness has been in the courtroom. I'm gonna waive that objection.
I will need to address that in front of the jury, because clearly they were advised that in their presence that the rule had been requested, and I think if any of them paid any attention, they could have seen her in here. So to eliminate any question in their mind, I'd like to simply address that she has been in the courtroom for part of the testimony, and that has been waived by the state. All right, bring the jury in. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience in your absence. We've been dealing with some procedural matters, so we are now ready. The state has rested their proof. So this is an opportunity for the defendant. I would remind you, the defendant does not have to offer any proof, does not have to put it on any witnesses, does not have to testify. But we're going to give them an opportunity. Do you wish to offer any proof?
Yes, please, Your Honor.
Who do you wish to call?
Your Honor, I wish to call Laura Roberts.
Laura Roberts.
I believe she should be in the hall.
Roberts, you're going to step up and raise your right hand and be placed under oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just see. Ladies and gentlemen, while she's having a seat, this witness has been in the courtroom during part of the testimony in this case. You may have noticed that. And I, as in your presence, had advised that the rule had been requested. The rule is a procedural issue that says we're going to exclude potential witnesses from being in the courtroom at the time of other witnesses' testimony. So under that rule, if someone's been in the courtroom, they would be subject to being objected to as a witness. But the state has waived that objection to allow the defendant to call this witness, so that you understand that. All right.
Would you please tell us your name?
Laura Roberts,
And is that spelled the unusual fashion?
Laura, the English.
And Roberts,
Yes.
R-O-B-E-R-T-S.
Roberts.
And Miss Roberts, do you live here in Stewart County?
Yes.
And did you know Miss Susan Dillow?
Yes.
How long have you known Miss Susan Dillow?
10 to 12 years.
And that sounds like,
And if you could scoot it just a little bit to that microphone and speak up just a little bit, because we're making a
I have
record of
a
every.
hearing disability, so
Well,
sometimes I don't talk.
I
as
appreciate
loud.
that, and that's in, but we need to make sure that it's picked up on the recording, so just speak as loudly as you can.
I'll ask a little louder too. You said you've known her for about 10 or 12 years?
Yes,
That sounds like right around when she moved here. Is that correct?
when she moved to Commissary Hall.
And is that where you live?
I did live there, yes.
And were you and her neighbors?
Yes,
How often over the years did you see her?
2 to 3 times a week.
And what would you describe your relationship with her like?
Friends,
How close friends were you?
very close.
What kind of person, in your opinion, was Susan Dillow? Generally,
She was a sweetheart of a person. She was very loving, caring.
did she work anywhere to your knowledge? Do anything?
No, she volunteered.
Where did she volunteer at?
Oh, the Humane Society.
And did she ever talk to you about that?
Yes, I did bake sales with her.
You did bake sales with
I
her?
cooked, she sold it.
Was that for the Humane Society?
Yes,
And over the years, did she ever have any troubles with anybody in her life that you're aware of? Did she ever hurt anybody, run afoul of anybody, make any enemies or anything like that?
no, never.
To your knowledge, is there any reason anyone would have any wish to do her harm?
I only thought of one person.
Her medical conditions, are you aware of what kind of medical conditions she had?
Yes,
Well, what kind of things does she have go on in her life?
she had the shakes real bad. She had cancer at one point.
You know what kind of cancer she had?
Mom,
And anything else to your knowledge?
just. She had some eye problems. She had eye therapy that she had to go to. That sort of things.
Would you say that she was generally unhappy or happy person?
A very happy person.
No further questions.
State, have any questions for this witness?
Good morning. Thank you for being here today. Miss Dillo didn't deserve to be killed in the manner she was killed. Is that right?
No.
It's a horrible killing.
Yes, of course.
You've been in the courtroom. You've heard all the testimony.
Unfortunately, no, I haven't heard all of it. I have a hearing disability, so I'm reading your lips mostly.
Have you seen the photographs?
Yeah, well, what I could see because they're blocked off by the back windows, but yes.
But you saw the photographs depicting how she was killed. With the butcher knife?
Oh, well, I saw the photos of the autopsy. I saw the autopsy photos. I saw the photos of the house, but I did not see the scene photos.
Look, were you able to see the photographs or hear the testimony of how the defendant's DNA and blood was mixed?
Oh, yes, yes. I know about DNA.
Dripped on the floor after he stabbed her.
Yes,
You were able to hear that
right,
and see that.
yes.
There's no question in your mind that the defendant killed Miss Dillon.
Oh, I still
Your
have
Honor,
questions,
this
but
is beyond the scope. of my
I still have
Hold on, ma'am.
questions.
Just a second, ma'am, and let me deal with the objection.
Only that's beyond the scope of my direct examination.
Doesn't matter whether it's beyond the scope, but it is an impermissible question because she's being asked to give her opinion about the ultimate issue before the jury. Sustain the objection. Jury will disregard any answer that she may have given. That's your job, and your duty is to determine whether or not the defendant is guilty of the crime.
I'll pass this.
Thank you. Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You now can step down and resume your seat in the courtroom if you'd like.
Thank
Now, Mr. Clemens, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, I don't have any other witnesses at this time.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll step out to the jury room just briefly for me, please. Yeah, the Momon hearing waiver is up. Testify. All right, Mr. Clemens, has your client decided whether or not he wishes to testify?
Your Honor, he would like to testify.
He wants to testify. All right. Let's go ahead and bring him around. Let me have him placed under oath to make sure that he understands fully his rights. Mr. Brazil, if you'll just stand at that podium for me.
Yes, sir.
Stand right there. Raise your right hand. Let's have you placed under oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
All right. State your full name for the record.
Terence Brazil.
Mr. Brazil, you are here today charged with this first-degree murder, making a false report, and aggravated cruelty to animals. I want to make sure that you understand your rights. Do you understand that you have a right not to testify at your own trial and that you have? All right, so let me go through this and then you answer, okay? Do you understand you have a right not to testify? And if you choose not to testify on the advice of your attorney or after talking about it with him, no one can make you testify. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
No one can force you to testify if you don't want to.
Yes, sir.
You understand that if you don't testify, I will instruct the jury that they're not to assume anything and they can't infer anything because you did not testify. You relied upon your constitutional right. You understand that? Likewise, do you understand that you have the absolute right to testify on your own behalf at this trial?
Yes, sir.
And you understand that if you choose to testify after talking it over with your lawyer, no one can stop you from testifying on your own behalf. You understand that? Have you talked this over with Mr. Clemens?
Yes, sir.
Do you feel like this is in your best interest to testify in this case?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. I believe this defendant is fully advised of his rights, and I'm going to allow him to testify. Have a seat with your lawyer until we call the jury back in.
Yes, sir.
Bring the jury in. Never mind. Ms. McKinney, you now know how you're doing. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for your cooperation. Now, Mr. Clemens, do you have any other witnesses you wish to call?
Your Honor, I'd like to call the defendant, Mr. Terence Brazil.
Mr. Brazil, if you'll come around, please. You'll raise your right hand and face our clerk. Let him place you under oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
They may ask you to sit up on that mic just a little bit more, right?
You may ask, I'm sorry.
Could you please state your name?
Yeah, it's Terence Brazil, they complicated.
Mr. Brazil, I want to ask you, when did you first come to Tennessee?
Late 2009,
Like 2009?
Yeah.
And where did you live before that?
California.
How long were you out in California?
California for about 10, maybe 12 years.
What kind of profession or professions have you had during your life?
Well, I was in the military for about 3.5 years. I was a guy that carried the keys for nuclear devices. So they weren't the kind that you see.
Mr. Brazil, can you scoot your chair up a little bit and speak into that microphone directly, please? Thank you.
They weren't the kind that you see in the silo. These were missiles that were supposed to be just for if airplanes were coming over, that they would take care of the airplane, but they weren't. They were later found to be surface missiles. I was the guy who put the button. And after that, I went to insurance. I worked in insurance for about 2 years. Then I got into working with Northwest Airlines. I was involved with transporting people and things like logistics.
What year did you get out of the military?
1968.
And do you remember when you first met Miss Susan Dilla?
I sure do. I met Susan in September 29th, 1995.
And were you living out in California then?
Yes.
And how did y'all first meet?
We met at a place called Halcyon House. People who didn't want it.
And at that time, who was she living with? Where were you living? What was her-
She had a boyfriend named Tom, and somehow they had gotten into some kind of a problem, and she decided that she wanted to mix with that.
Now, did you and her live together at all out in California before you came here to Tennessee?
Yes, we did. One of the things that most people know is that her and Tom had gotten into crack, and they were trying to get off of that. And I had done some alcohol, heavy alcohol. I was an alcoholic, so we had something in common. About 3 or 4 years later, they called and asked if they could come live with us. So they did. We were together.
How long did the three of y'all live together?
4 years, maybe.
And when y'all stopped, at some point you came out here to Tennessee, is that right?
Well, yeah.
How did that end up happening?
Well, Susan finally, I kind of walked with her for a number of years ago. She was involved with her addiction, and I became a person who was involved with helping people get off of addiction. I was a night manager at recovery home. Called first. I'm sorry.
It's all right, you were working at a recovery home?
Yes, sir. I did. I was a night manager.
Understood.
My educational background would provide me with the ability to be able to assume that kind of thing.
Whose idea was it to come out to Tennessee?
It was mutual agreement. She had family here. I say I have no family. I have no family that I've stayed in touch with. Disney was more important to me, unfortunately. she has family here, and although she wasn't altogether certain that she wanted to reconnect with them, we decided that it might be a good idea to come out here. We weren't going to stay in this area. We would go on to an area where she had a lake that she used to do some water skiing. She was considered professional and was a good water ski. She made a choice, but she thought, and I can't remember the name of the lake, but it's further east. We met some people that tiny who provided us an opportunity. I was on Social Security because I had cut myself and that's pretty bad nerve damage. I also had some issues with my ability. You can see that I do have some issues now trying to remember things. We thought it was an issue with mental illness, but it turned out that they found in the jail that I had a couple of strokes that I didn't go. But the end result is that we decided to come here and maybe reconnect with family.
When you came out here, did y'all live somewhere else before you moved to the
Yeah,
house?
we lived up in a little home. When we came here, Brother Gray with the Baptist Association, you could come up to Piney and you would in church service. We met him there. We kind of decided we liked each other, and they had a program for people who were kind of indigent. Now, we weren't indigent. I made $1,200 from Social Security, and I think she made like $400. I'm not quite sure her finance, her business. The point is that because we had this limited income in a program where they would give us $100 a month to help with the rent, and they would also give her because she was responsible in the program for utilities, gave her money to be able to pay the deposit. And so we lived in a small home. So you didn't want to. When you're addicted to crack, it's a pretty tough thing to do. And so you live in motels, and you live with friends, you live on the street, and you live in places where, you see the guy on the, at Christmas, they show him, and, he wants to go home, so he can live in that home.
Now, let me ask,
Yeah.
you mentioned that's part of her past, right? Miss Simpson, that was part of her past. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
In the years leading up to her death,
Yeah.
she had left that lot behind. Is that correct?
She came on one day, we were staying in a motel, and she said, I just had a conversation. I decided I don't have to do this anymore. She put it down and never picked it up again, and she became this. People know.
And the Susan people know, especially here, once she came here to Tennessee.
Yeah.
What are the sorts of things that they would know about her during the years that she lived here?
Well, you heard some from woman who came up to testify. There's another woman out there who would also come in. She would come in.
Will people have good things to say about her?
Absolutely.
In the years leading up to her death, did she have any medical issues?
Well, the first issue was her back.
What was wrong with her back?
The disc problem, she had 2 disc problems.
And what did this do to her?
Well, it meant that she couldn't do the things that she wanted to do. Her whole purpose of coming out here would maybe kind of sort of be with the family, but the purpose was she wanted to be with her aunt. That was coming across, and we camped coming across from California. It was a new experience for her. Well traveled, but it was a new experience for her. And all across, we stopped at different rescue organizations. And, oh, can we teach this animal? Can we do this? Can we do that? So when we got here, it was kind of what she wanted to do, but because her back, she was having problems with her back. She couldn't do the things she wanted. We rescued a German Shepherd dog. He was pretty mean. He was pretty old. His name was Buddy, but he was, I'm sorry, Buddy. His name was Buddy, but the point is that with her back, she couldn't walk Buddy, and that was our, but she did get that taken care of when she was back.
She worked at the Humane Society,
Oh, yeah,
volunteered there.
yeah, yes, yes.
How often was she doing that in the years, right before?
Well, we worked with her for about, I guess, 10 years.
Is there anything in the year or two leading up to her death that you think would be important for us to know about the context of what's going on?
I don't quite understand what you're asking.
That is, I'm about to ask you about what happened, of course, on October 19th, 2021.
I understand.
I want to make sure that we cover everything leading up to there. Is there anything else you can think of that you want to make sure we understand before we ask about that?
So I can go into a great deal of detail about Susan and all of the problems. It isn't important to the issue that we're dealing with.
All right. Ready for me to ask you about October 19th, 2021?
Yes, sir.
Tell me what happened that morning.
Well, you have to go back some time. There was a period of time where we had a discussion. Her life wasn't quite getting where she wanted it to get to. She found out she had small cell lung cancer, which is most aggressive there is. We went through chemotherapy. In the meantime, we contacted her son. About a year before, she contacted her sister, Vesta. The family a little messed up. Her one sister was an alcoholic. She had a brother who had cancer. He committed suicide. Her mother had cancer and she died the day she was supposed to get her retirement check. She was 62 years old. We had a conversation and choices to be made, and when I started seeing yellow everywhere I looked, I saw yellow. If I was looking at this thing you have on your podium there, bright yellow for my eyes. Conversation was just a conversation that we had. As time went on, the chemo didn't work. So they had to do radiation therapy. They gave her two radiation therapy. Didn't work. They still the cancer was there. There was a little bit of the radiation person couldn't say specifically if it was still cancer. It was growing, or it was a burn that they had done on the.
Why was that important to her?
Well, the back started hurting. She had a problem with her hip, her COPD, cancer. The point is, she couldn't do anything but sit in a corner of the couch and play with Candy Crush. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody plays with Candy Crush.
How did that affect you?
Okay with me, I don't care. I'm a weird guy, you know. I'm really young people call me a weird duck. Now you might say because I'm crazy, it's because I don't care. I've been so many places, I've done business with so many people, I've experienced them. I'm 77 years old. So the question could arise, was it sounds when I was reading the material from the state, and they're going to come back and be attacking me in a minute. It looked like we were supposed to be, our relationship was beautiful. It was incredible. The only woman I ever met that I stayed with longer than 4 years. I've been married 5 times. But Susan, one day I asked her, I said, who are you? Because she astonished me. She said, I'm an angel with a broken wing. One day she asked me, why do you stay with me? Because they took my stuff. They took my money. You've heard this story. They took my money. They took my car. They took my collection of coins. They took my bank account. They took everything, and I ended up walking with her on the street. But the point is, resolve the problems that we have and the issues. It's none of it makes a difference. We had a love and I couldn't fix it. That's my job is I'm a fixer. If you have a problem, you come to Terry. We'll sit down, we'll talk about it. And in the end, something will happen that will make you feel just a little bit better than the fact you did when you sat down and talked to me. I just have that stability. My degree is in psychology, education. I was a teacher for about 15 years. I stopped teaching because of this student aid program. You hear kids coming out of school with $50,000, $60,000 in debt, and the money wasn't going back in. It wasn't reinvested. So I walked away from that. Made a lot of money doing that. I went into farming for a while. That didn't work. And then I decided I didn't want to live anymore. I cut myself, and that's what we met at the house.
That was a long time ago, right?
Yes, sir.
Almost 30 years ago now.
30 years ago.
We'll bring us up to
Keep me focused. I rambled as you saw when you saw it.
We're going October 19th,
Yes, sir.
2021, that
Yes, sir.
morning.
Yes, sir.
Tell me what happened.
The conversations that we had in the past were coming to a head. You heard me mention something about Mikey. There's no way that I wanted Mikey to be put in jail. I was trying to talk about Mikey was part of the problem that we were going to get into. It's not that I wanted Mikey to go to jail. I wouldn't have let it. No, it was a bullshit story. As far as the coffee, I poured it over my own head. I mean, there were a few other things that I did to show Susan that he couldn't hurt me because she really was afraid. He's got somewhat of a temper, but I don't believe in, I don't want you to believe he would have come, done those things. But anyway, to get back to it, her family did disappoint her, and they're not here, so I can say her family did disappoint her. They don't understand that. Made 1,000 calls to her sister, but her sister wouldn't answer the damn phone. There was some information in the book that so these guys can talk about it that had to do with whether or not I was the person that was keeping her from doing anything. Folks, I'd have walked away in a minute. In a minute, there is nothing that would make me stay if she wanted me to walk away. There is nothing anybody could ever do to make me do anything they didn't want me to do. I'm that kind of guy. So now we get to the point what happened. Susan had said, look, we made a pact there would be no suicide. That was a pact we made after we got together, and we were never lovers. That wasn't our relationship, but we loved each other more than you could know. So she had suggested that maybe I could help her do something. That's when I started seeing yellow because I wasn't going to do it. So the morning, in brief, get it over quickly. In the morning, I got up and we had a big fight. I would not unload the SUV, and the reason I wouldn't unload the SUV was because she had asked me to do something that I couldn't. Remember, I carried the keys for nuclear devices. I would press that button to kill millions of people. I could do that. I am a badass person, if you trust me. People are watching here with these guys. I love them. These are the people who guard me at the jail. I wear a warrant so you would know that I am in jail. And the point is that I could do it and who would do it. But I wasn't going to do it. And I'll be doing it second. So we got up that morning. We had a big fight about unloading the SUV. I said, I'm not going to do it. And she said, you got to unload that SUV. She said, either we're going to do what we're going to do or you're going to get the hell out of here. I said, I won't do it. I went to the store, bought her some kisses, brought the kisses back. I said, I'm leaving. And that's the point. So I didn't leave. Instead, walked to the kitchen, picked up a knife, and I walked in. Now here's the thing. I struck her once in the arm. That was to take the pain away. Remember, I know that because I did this 17 times. Once the pain went away, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was the end of the story. She looked up at me. She smiled, she went, ah. I held her, and that's the end of the story. So the whole point here was not what I did, or what you're gonna fucking do to me. But did you see what you saw? Nothing about Susan. It was a bag of shit that you saw. You didn't see this beautiful woman that I walked with for all those years. You didn't see her go from what she was to what she became. So they can get up, they can say whatever they want to. The judge can say what he wants to. I have found this system is broken. And it shouldn't be that way. We forgot Susan. So I want you to know she was the most beautiful, incredible woman I've ever met. The only woman who could beat me. And that's the end of the story. And am I afraid or concerned about going? No, all my boys, the lost boys that I've worked with, they know of honesty, truth, justice, and the American way. But boy, is this fucking system incredibly broken, Your Honor. And that's the end of the story. So I've asked me to put them on, do whatever you're gonna do.
Is there anything else you want the jury to know before I let the DA ask questions?
Man, you guys are smart. You know what's real.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Mr. Crouch?
Good morning, Mr. Brazil. I've listened closely and taken some notes of your testimony. I think what you described is that you admit that you committed a premeditated. Yes or no?
I'm sorry. Now, we're gonna have a very difficult problem because we both work with words. Ask me again, but I'm not quite sure I understand your question.
My words are very simple. Did you commit a premeditated?
No.
So let's back up.
Yes.
You just described to the jury
Yes.
that you went and got a knife.
Yeah.
Yes? Butcher knife?
Yes.
Got that butcher knife from the second shelf in your kitchen? Is that right? Is that where you got the butcher knife?
I'm not which of the time.
Was it your butcher knife?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And you walked into the living room?
Can I have an answer? Yes, sir.
Once you had the knife in your hand, walked into the living room, and you just testified that
Mhm.
gave her one cut to kill the pain. Is that right?
Yes.
And then 5 more
Yes,
to
sir.
kill her.
Yes, sir.
So you had determined to kill her before you went and got the knife.
I still don't understand your question.
You don't understand that?
No, sir.
You made a decision to kill Miss Diller.
Before we go to that, now you're trying to ask me a question about a legal issue. I don't understand.
No.
You said the word premeditated.
No.
Would you explain what premeditated is to me? If you don't, I can't answer your question.
So I feel like you're answering now, just like you did in the interview with TVI. When they asked you, why did you kill? What was your answer?
I don't know.
No, this next question.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So I'm asking
You know,
you.
are we going to get into an argument here?
No.
I just answered, I can't answer your question because I don't understand what premeditation is.
Let's back up.
Would you explain me premeditation, please?
So I'm going to ask you some questions.
Would you explain to me so I can answer your question?
Mr. Brazil, you can't ask the attorney questions. He has the right to ask you questions.
No.
Understand? And he has the right, this is cross-examination. It may not be pleasant, but he has the right to ask you the questions that he may.
I don't expect it to. Go
You picked up a knife,
on. I did.
walked into the living room,
Yes, sir.
and you stabbed Miss Diller.
Yes, sir.
You intended to stab Miss Diller.
Yes, sir.
You knew you were going to stab Miss Diller.
No,
No?
no,
You testified on direct examination that because of her various health issues, you were going to assist her in her death.
no, I wasn't.
That's not your previous testimony.
Yes, I was. I said I wasn't going to do it. I was going to get in the car and leave.
But you did do it,
Yes.
and you intended it.
Your Honor, when that's asked and answered, whether he intended to, he insists that he didn't.
Overruled.
I'm sorry, say that again for me.
You gave an elaborate answer
Yes, sir.
as to why this happened on October the 19th, 2020.
Did I? You go ahead.
You picked up the knife,
Yes, I did.
you stabbed Ms. Dillard.
Yes, I did.
You knew before you picked up the knife what was gonna happen.
No, sir.
You didn't know,
No, sir.
so you had no clue what was gonna happen when you inserted a butcher knife into her heart.
That's not the question. The question.
And that is my question. Did you know what was gonna happen before you put that butcher knife into her heart?
I didn't think about that.
You didn't think about it?
No.
So what were you thinking when you picked up a knife?
I was thinking, well, I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
I was still seeing yellow. I don't know.
Mr. Brazel, when
When
your lawyer was
What's my
asking,
name?
I'm asking you questions.
What's my name?
Mr. Brazil,
Thank
excuse
you.
me. Now, Mr. Brazil,
Yes,
when
sir.
your lawyer was asking you questions, you testified
Yes, sir.
that you did this to assist her, to
Yes,
help
sir.
her. Is that
Yes, sir.
true?
Yes.
So you knew what you were doing.
No. After I walked in, do you want me to answer? When I walked into the room, I had the knife. I looked down, I hadn't decided at all what I was going to do. Then she looked at me, I looked at her. She looked at me and she said, oh. And then I took the knife and I went like that. That's exactly the way that it happened. Now, how you want to interpret it is your business, but that's the way it happened.
I'm not interpreting these things.
I agree.
Let's go back through some of the facts.
Yes, sir.
You had a bad argument with her?
No, no, we had an argument, not a bad argument, an argument.
Do you remember giving testimony when your lawyer asked you questions?
I'm not sure.
Do you remember the testimony?
No. No.
Do you remember saying, just a few minutes
So go
ago,
ahead.
we had a big fight in the morning of October 19th?
Okay, you're right.
So you did have a big fight?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes
Yeah.
or no? Did you have a big fight?
Yeah, refresh my memory, I apologize.
Now you can ask the next question.
Yeah, go on.
I'm still asking you about the fight.
Oh, go ahead.
You say yes or no. Did you have a big fight with her on October the 19th?
Yes,
Do you have an anger issue?
No.
No? Are you a controlling person?
yes.
You're a very controlling person. You wanted to control her.
No.
Controlling whether someone lives or dies
Oh,
is the ultimate control. Yes or no?
hadn't thought about it.
Well, we are now. You're
Okay.
thinking about it.
I don't know. I guess you could say that,
So
yeah.
you have an anger issue?
No,
No?
No.
But you're controlling.
not,
You had a big fight?
can't you see I'm controlling, trying to control you?
Yes.
Absolutely, because I find what you're doing atrocious.
Why is that? Why do you?
I've already made the issue. Now, what you want to do is you want to prove to me that I'm some kind of a horrible person. And so the answer is no, I don't have an anger issue, but yes, I'm very control. I'm ultimate in controlling and I'm very good at it. Do you understand? I am, you see? Yeah, okay, so we've established that.
You agree you're the ultimate control.
Oh, I'm very controlled. Yes, very,
Did
very.
you take control a little bit?
Hmm?
Did you take control a little bit?
Oh, we talking about a little bit?
Yes.
I take control of, I guess you would know.
What'd you do a little bit?
I took her when they gave her to me and I squeezed her neck.
You squeezed the life.
I
out of
squeezed
her.
the life out of her.
You stabbed the life out of Susan.
I stabbed the life out of Susan.
You did both of those things.
I did.
Knowingly.
Well, then you gotta go back to what I was saying about.
I'll strike the lawyer there. Use the
Okay.
word that you're familiar with. You did both of those things
I didn't,
in control.
no.
Oh.
No.
I thought you were the ultimate control.
I am.
You ultimately decided.
I didn't control it. That wasn't the issue. The issue was you couldn't keep the cancer that was incurable. The family had a cancer background. I'm not proud of it. I'm not happy with it. Whatever they do, if they stick me in the arm, I don't care. You know what courage it takes to come up here and talk to you people and the people who are probably watching on Zoom. I was not mean, I was not the kind of controlling person that would do something that, and right, or history.
You described that your relationship was, quote, beautiful and incredible,
So, what,
that you stabbed her to death.
I did,
You made the decision to do that.
I didn't,
She didn't make that decision.
well, she did, was asking me.
So she did ask you?
Oh, yes, sir, but that was going on when I.
When did she ask?
Maybe 6 days before.
Okay, so you thought about this decision to kill her for 6 days?
No, well, the answer was absolutely not. Absolutely no.
Okay, let me get this straight. She asked you to kill her.
She asked me to help her.
Okay. And you did so.
Yeah,
After thinking of it for 6 days.
no,
How many days was it?
see,
So it was 6 days.
yes, sir.
I think you just defined premeditation.
I didn't think about it. There was nothing to think about.
She asked you to kill her. You get a knife and kill her. Yes?
Yeah,
That's premeditation.
wait a minute now, you see, you, go ahead.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, what he's asking me, did I premeditate? No, she asked me, it wasn't even anything I would consider. I wouldn't consider. Then the day came and I was gonna leave and I decided to. Go ahead, sir.
Your testimony today is that the gashes on Miss Dillo's arm
Yeah,
were the gashes that you made to take the pain away.
yes, sir.
How does that take the pain away?
Once you get the adrenaline flow, the pain leaves. You don't feel pain. I cut myself 17 times, various times, or never. Besides that, you know that.
So your testimony is you made those gashes through her arm to take the pain away?
Yeah, how many gashes I saw? See, there were two. Boom,
I
boom.
lost count. The
Okay,
medical examiner's testimony. How many do you remember the medical examiner testifying to?
I don't remember.
It's a lot, right?
Yes, yeah, well, yeah, that surprised me.
Did you hear the medical examiner's testimony?
Yes, sir.
Did you hear her testify that those gashes, which you claim to be made to relieve pain, were actually defensive wounds?
I'm sorry.
Did you hear the medical examiner describe the
Yeah,
gashes?
I did, yeah.
Defensive.
Yeah, I don't even remember that happening.
I'm asking, did you hear the testimony?
I did.
They are defensive.
I was surprised and appalled.
Ms. Dillo was defending herself.
No,
No?
no,
So your testimony today is those cuts all down her arm through to the bone were not defensive wounds?
no, she didn't defend herself.
She didn't. Did you hear the testimony that your DNA is under Ms. Dillo's fingernails?
But my DNA could be under the fingernails. Of course, she explained that. I know there was no defense. None.
No defense. Your testimony now is there's no defense.
No, none.
Do you think there was DNA under her fingernails?
Well, of course.
And how did that get there?
Are you suggesting that the DNA, I don't understand your question. I have no idea. It's not my job.
Yeah.
You brought it in. No, there was no defense.
Ms. Dillo wanted to live, didn't she?
I wish you just get to what you're trying to prove, because I'll agree to it. I'll agree to anything you want to.
I'm not asking you to agree. I'm asking you, Ms. Dillo wanted to live, yes or no?
No, absolutely not.
She fought back.
No, she didn't.
She tried to defend
No,
herself.
she didn't.
She put her arms in your
she
face.
didn't.
You wanted
No,
to
she
control
didn't.
her. No,
No, sir.
you kept stabbing.
No, sir.
You didn't keep stabbing her?
Four times.
4, is that it?
1, 2, 5.
Her fingernails went into you, didn't they?
How many fingernails were in the?
Did she grab you? She wanted to live, didn't she?
No, sir, she didn't.
She tried to put her hands
No,
against
sir.
you in fear of you.
No, sir, she
You were determined. Yes or no?
No, sir.
You weren't determined to kill?
No, sir.
Why did you continue to cut?
Because it went well. Ask me the question again.
Why did you continue to cut and stab?
Because yes, you're right. I did. Yes, I would.
But she wanted to live.
No,
You don't think so?
no, sir.
Did a little bit want to live?
Oh, well, now see, there's another story. I have fun with this one. She's my dog. This woman out here spent thousands of dollars on dogs that were old, as an example, to get eyes back. That's just a false. We held in our arms, we held a number of animals that had to be put down because their owners couldn't do it. They couldn't come in and do it. There was nothing I could do. They say I wasn't under arrest. I was locked in a car. I was under arrest, but they didn't say you're under arrest. I was locked in that car. I couldn't get their attention to even come and get the heat turned down. The point of the story is, folks, you have to make a determination. I didn't kill her because I was angry. She didn't want to live. She had cancer in her body. She was riddled with all kinds of problems. I'm not saying I'm a hero. I'm not a hero. I did what I did. He has some kind of an agenda that he's trying to prove. Again, it's up to you, and you all make the decision. So he and I can haunt this banner forever and ever. I'm really much better at arguing than I am, but I'm not going to get into that because this gentleman over here won't let me do that. I said it. I killed her. She didn't want to die. She had asked me. I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't even going to do it the day that I was going to do it. I walked into that room, and then all of it, I just went boom, 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 boom. And that was the end of the story. And I've had to live with it in jail for the last 18 months. That's it. I mean, he can go on and banner me for the rest of the afternoon if he chooses to. You know whether or not I'm telling the truth. He's going to banner me and banner me and banner me. The truth is exactly what I said. Think about it. You think about it. Go ahead, sir.
Only have one more question.
I would like
Try
that.
not to.
I hope you get done because you're not getting anywhere.
So my last question is, on October 19th, 2021,
Yes, sir.
acting in control of your person, did you decide to
Say
take
it
the
again.
life of
Say it
both
again.
your wife, who
Would
still
you
owes
say that again? I'm not married. Would you say it again, please?
on October the 19th, 2021? You took the life of Miss Dillon.
I took the life of Miss Bill.
You took the life of your dog. Billy.
I took the life of my dog, Bill. You're very welcome. I wish you would have done that in the beginning. We would.
Mr. Clemens, do you have anything else you would ask?
Strictly, Your Honor. Mr. Brazil,
Yes, sir.
if the jury were to make the correct decision in this case,
Yes, sir.
in your opinion, what would that be?
I would put a needle.
I'm sorry.
I would
She's
put
got-
a needle in my arm.
Put a needle in you.
Sure, I killed somebody. We didn't be killed.
How do we know that you're telling us the truth?
Up to you, folks.
Can you tell me anything about that crime that only you would know that we could verify? No further questions, Your Honor.
No.
Anything further from the state? Thank you, sir. You may stand down, Mr. Brazil, and have a seat by your lawyers. Mr. Clemens, do you have any other proof?
No, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, both sides have now rested their proof. The next step will be the closing arguments. I think Ms. McKinney had given you a copy of the final charge. Does the state, well, first of all, does the state have any rebuttal proof? All right. And now you've heard, I failed to ask that. You've now heard all of the proof. And do you want to have a recess before you move to closing arguments?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next little bit will be a little bit longer, so, and we need to make sure that we have your copies of the final charge printed. So we're going to take another recess for about 15 minutes to give everybody a chance to get that ready. You'll step back in. If you need to go outside, I would remind you of my instructions. You've now heard all the proof. Please do not talk about the case or try to start any deliberations or discussions until after the closing arguments, and I give you my final instructions. All right. Thank you. All right, we'll stand at recess for 15 minutes.
All right.
I think Ms. McKinney has given everybody a copy of the final charge, so we're ready to print the jurors' copies. Are you gonna front one? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now ready for the closing arguments of the lawyers. I would remind you, as I've told you in the instructions, that the statements of lawyers are not evidence. Their ability to, or their opportunity rather, to explain to you what they think the evidence has been and to reason with you about what they think your verdict should be. State will go first. Defense will then be given an opportunity if they choose to speak. And if they choose to speak, then the state will be given a second opportunity. All right. State may proceed.
No, Terry. If you remember back yesterday when we played the interview of Mr. Brazil, he was asked what Ms. Dillo said when she was getting stabbed. Today, he said, "Oh, no, Terry." Were probably the last words Susan Dillo ever spoke. We don't know a lot about Miss Dillon. We know she was 61 years old. We know that she liked to play Candy Crush. We know that she liked being home. She went to yard sales. We also know that her life was cut short by a violent, heinous act conducted by Mr. Brazil. Stabbed her to death. Mr. Brazil, the self-proclaimed problem solver. Self-proclaimed control freak. Was Miss Dillo a problem? Was the dog a problem? He took it upon himself to take care of both of those problems that Mr. Brazil had. Already had these PowerPoints prepared for today, but in light of what happened, I'm going to move through them a little more quickly. First degree murders, defendant unlawfully killed the alleged victim. Acted with intent.
And I walked up there and I saw, so this is the couch here, but he's over here on us. You were sitting right next to her. Can you show me how did you stab her? So
Demonstrated how he did it. And I put this photo or this schematical from the medical examiner's office up there so you could see the way he demonstrated is actually reflected in the diagram where the incisions were. Killing was premeditated, had the form intent. After the exercise of reflection and judgment. Said they got into an argument yesterday on the evidence.
about taking yard sale items out of a car. He decided to do something nice for her, he said, went to Dollar General store. About 42 minutes round trip. If he was upset with her, he had plenty of time to reflect on what his action would be. And if he didn't form a 10 at that time, came back home, it wasn't festering, but he didn't get the response he wanted when he brought the kisses and the card home to it. If he decided that moment that he intended to kill her, still pre-existing, didn't have to exist for any certain amount of time. So whether it was caused by the argument, he planned it the whole 42 minutes he was driving the Dollar General back home, or he got upset with her response to what he brought back. Because he also testified he had to walk in the kitchen and get the knife. There's plenty of time there for this question. But
First of all, it was not anger. There was no anger involved. Let's go back to that.
Okay, you wanna go back to that?
We'll come back. We'll make it.
So after, so what did you use that for? What was it that you used? And where was that knife at?
It was in the kitchen, there's a wet cabinet, and above there's a setting shop down there.
generally, when there's a confession, that alone is insufficient. You have to have some cooperating evidence. We talked about this earlier on. So let's start. We've got a confession. We have a body in his residence, his girlfriend. He knows how she died. Is that enough? I don't know. You're the ones that have to decide that. He also knows how she died. That's another piece. Is that enough? He also told us he went to Dollar General, when he went, what he got. Agent Looney followed up on that, an investigator. Found out, yes, he did go to Dollar General. He did buy those things. Found the receipt. He also, it shows that he has on clothes that are eerily similar to the ones that were displayed yesterday, recovered from the residence, with blood stains on. Go ahead, Josh. Cut marks. Fence asked the question yesterday, is there any way for certain we can tell those cut marks? I asked you to bring with you your life experiences and common sense. Early on, you judge for yourself. These pants that were worn were covered from the house, consistent with the ones that were shown in the Dollar General video. In fact, in her testimony yesterday, the blood on them was a mixture of 2 DNAs, Mr. Brazil's and Ms. Dillon's. Is that enough? So we got a confession. We have a murdered individual, Ms. Dillo, at his house. He described the manner that it happened. We have corroborating proof that he went to the Dollar General, just like he said in the statement. When he said he went, his clothing is consistent. What was recovered from the house with blood on it. Hands had DNA of both individuals. And he had a cut on his hand. I'd submit to you as a telltale cut of someone that's been stabbed at somebody. Is that enough? Then we have a blood droplet on the floor, which just happens to be between where the stabbing took place and the kitchen where the knife was found. Not only that, but this particular blood droplet, their testimony yesterday, contains the DNA of two people, Mr. Brazil and the victim, Ms. Dillo. Mr. Brazil told us in his statement to the police that he also halfway showered, stuck the upper part of his body in the shower. We heard testimony yesterday that that mark that's circled there is indeed blood, and it contains a mixture of two DNAs. Mr. Brazil, Susan Dillo, the victim. Is that enough? So now we got a confession. Person that's been stabbed in his house is still there. He's described the manner in which the murder happened. The Dollar General receipt video confirms his statement. And the clothing that's consistent, what was recovered from the crime scene with the blood on it. The blood from the pants that contains Ms. Dillo, the victim's DNA, as well as Mr. Brazil's. A cut on his hand, consistent with what you might expect from someone that's been stabbing someone. The blood droplet on the floor with the mixture of DNA in it. The blood on the bathtub. I submit to you that corroborating evidence is overwhelming. Not only is the corroborating evidence overwhelming, but also this shows us within a short period of time, he changed clothes. Of course, we probably can infer that because those on the left were found with crime scene blood on. On the right, I submit to you that's what he put on after he changed clothes. Because those were the same clothes that he had on when he took his trip. And when he came back and called 911, and when he was questioned later on that night about what happened. It all fits, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I know. You would have a knife about what you.
What you need a knife for? What would you need a knife for?
Well, I think this dog used to go. Yeah, I came with up one now, and I was thinking it was all the problem, but there it is.
Mr. Brazil, problem solved. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I submit to you that evidence is overwhelming.
I mean, I didn't try to tell you mentioned Mikey to the deputies that showed up to be trying to kind of shift the blame, like to kind of throw them off. Yeah.
Trying to skip that. False reporting when he called 911. Oh yeah, well, I don't like this staff. He did. He was trying to lead him straight in the beginning. Sitting on the front porch. Deputy's talking to him. Oh yes, her son Billo is a bad guy. Red in the arm. And then he just admitted right there it was all BS. Easy call. just drawing on your common sense, your life experience. I said that early on. Just looking at all the evidence, I submit to you, it's just overwhelming. Your mind can rest easy convicting Mr. Brazil of everything that he's charged with. As charged. The last line. Ladies and gentlemen, she's why we're here today. She was 61 years old. We don't know how long she lived, but she didn't live long enough. No, Terry. Is that someone's faith back? I don't think so. Whatever life she had left, he stole it from her. The problem solved. When we first started, my last question to you, I believe, was if you had any distracting things in your life, if you're supposed to sit here and focus, pay attention, look at the evidence, you all assured that you could. And as I looked over that trial, I believe you have. Appreciate that. Thank you for your service.
Could we put that slide back up for me, please? Picture of Miss Dillon. Folks, this case is about Sharon Dillon. Her life, her death, the justice she deserves. It's also about my client. It's Terence Brazil. That's right there. Mr. Brazil. It's Terry Brazil. He said a lot of things about this case. He's asked you to believe. You may think to yourself, well, he admitted. He went in front of all of us. Step. Said it on camera the day of. Said it here today. What more is there to ask yourselves? Job's not done yet. You need to examine these facts. Your next task is going to be to apply the law. The judge is going to be describing that law to you in 10 minutes. Before you get sent back there, you pay attention to this. The job's not finished. I want to understand, first of all, Ms. Sharon Dillon, Mr. Brazil, they were not lovers, which is not his wife, not his girlfriend. They were friends and they were partners. Had been for more than 30 years. They were independent, but the love that they shared was pure. Describe it. Everybody knows it. Was he controlling? Yes. He was a military fellow. He had a lot of jobs over his life, and he was very particular about the way he wanted things to be done. But he was not controlling the partner. They were independent. She had her life. Had his. They were partners together. For more than a decade, they lived here in Tennessee, doing good for the community. Took care of animals, worked for the Humane Society, and lived good lives. Her life was cut short. My client has admitted to doing it. But if you are going to take him at his word on that, you should take him at his word on the rest of it. Because the law does not simply say, ask whether a man killed someone. The law asks you to go a little bit more detailed. What they're trying to convict him of today is premeditated first-degree murder. What that means can be a little bit confusing. You're going to get detailed instructions in writing of what that exactly means. But I'll put it to you this way. A long time ago, there was a boxer, Mike Tyson, was going to fight a guy named Holyfield, and they asked him before the fight about their plans. Mike Tyson famously said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. You're going to be asked to decide if this killing was premeditated or is it? And they're gonna say, well, you can't look inside the fellow's head. You don't have a way to read his mind, so you gotta look at their actions. Did this appear to be something that was planned? How can you tell whether somebody planned to do something? You look at their actions before and after they did it. For example, you might ask yourselves, you probably aren't. Was he planning on testifying? Or was that a spur of the moment decision? Look at his actions before and after. That's not the question here today. Of course, the question is, did he have premeditation in this case? If you have any doubt in your mind as to whether that's true, here's what you're going to be thinking. This guy may have had a fight with her, but when he left the house, what did he do? He went and bought her some candy. Brought it back to him. Said he's not that type of guy. He's not the kind of guy that usually brings candy in cars. Something he's doing special. And if we're going to believe him when he tells us that he stabbed her, we've got to think about whether you ought to take him seriously when he describes why. He says he saw yellow. Repeated that phrase, I believe, in his initial interview, and he repeated it again today. I don't know what the heck that means. I don't think any of the rest of us know what that means. We see yellow, we see color yellow. Clearly, in his mind, this had something to do with what he was about to do. And he is adamant under the questioning of the VA and earlier when he was talking to Agent that he didn't think about what he was doing, not at least in the way that they want him to admit that he thought. They want to say this was premeditated. This was not a spur of the moment decision. And what he claims is that even when he was getting the knife, he wasn't really thinking about what he was about to do. He was simply doing it. And the law seems to allow for that subtle distinction. You will be given options, starting with first degree murder, going down to second, third, fourth. And the only difference between those options will be what you believe the person's state of mind is. What is going on inside their head? We know what happened on the outside. Pretty well tell what happened down in the floor. Find fingerprints, DNA evidence, blood, eyes, things like that. But to really get inside what's in someone's head, there's only a couple ways you can do that. One is you can look at the circumstances, what did they do before and after, and ask yourself, does this look like the actions of someone who was planning it? Or you can ask the person, say, tell me what's in your mind, and then choose whether to believe it. But what we ask you not to do is simply imagine your own scenario. You don't need to speculate beyond the facts that you've been told here today. You don't need to speculate beyond what you're saying. You want to take it seriously when he claims to you that he stabbed her. Consider taking him seriously when he said it's right. No further question. No further vote.
Crouch.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this week. We've gone a little further than we had anticipated, not as long as we could. So, we're pretty short here and finish this up. I want to take the next few minutes to focus on the murder of Miss Dillard, which, as Joe eloquently put it, is why we're here this week. Don't want that. You've heard a lot. We've really heard a lot today. So I'm going to pose this question to you. Miss Dillard want to die? The answer to that is no. Proof will show how she wanted to live. That's why we're here. We are representing the life of Miss Susan Dillard. She wanted to live. You're unable to hear from her how much she wanted to live. Why? Because that man right there stabbed her over and over, again. It's that simple. He took the stand testified he held the keys for nuclear missiles. He was a self-proclaimed and testified badass. He knows what it means to kill. He knows what violence is. He knows what impact placing a knife 4 inches into someone's chest cavity had. That doesn't happen by accident. And you saw my question and his answers. Take that however you want. But I'm arguing to you that when I questioned him why he went to that kitchen to get that knife, did he know what he was going to do with it? He appeared pretty evasive. But why else would you get a knife? Why else would you? I want to show a couple of things as well.
You don't have to answer it. So, were you trying to, and this is just my theory, I'm not saying you said this, were you trying to take her pain away or anything like that? You see what I'm saying? I know she was going through cancer treatment and
Part of it, a small part of it.
Hope you heard that. He was specifically asked in that TBI interview, were you trying to take her pain away? Because we know she was going through cancer treatment. His answer on that day, in October of 21, that was a small part. That's his own words. Now, according to his testimony today, that was the entire part. It doesn't really matter which you believe, because they both carry premeditation. Whether it was a small part, large part, he's changed his story. Susan Dillon wanted to live. My argument is taking her pain away was no part of this. He was a controlling person, by his own admission, wanted to control me from the witness stand, wanted me to answer his questions, wanted to direct the conversation, did not want you to hear truth. His own words, her pain was a small part of it. He was a controlling person, wanted her to die. There is no other interpretation. His testimony today, it was on direct and cross. I made sure to double down on this. Your testimony is that you cut into her arm to take her pain away. That was his testimony. He testified, first gash on the arm, to take her pain away, to get her adrenaline flowing where she wouldn't feel the other stabs. Think about that. Think about that. Now think about the testimony from our expert witness, the medical. Those gashes in her arm, not to take her pain away. That was Miss Dillow wanting to live. She was fighting for her life. She threw her arms up as the only defense mechanism she had. What else could she do? She was literally sitting on a couch with her tablet and the Hershey Kisses that he brought. More than 19 cuts through her arm into her chest, all the way to the bone. The medical examiner said those are all defensive wounds. Defensive, because she wanted to live. She didn't want to die. The defendant describes his love for her as beautiful. I think extraordinary or outstanding. I can't remember the other one. That's not a beautiful love. If you truly wanted to help your spouse or your significant other or a person that you truly love, would you gash them to death with a butcher knife? While we're doing that, let me talk about just a few more pieces of evidence. And I have my eye on the clock. I know it's not good. I'm going to be quick. Exhibit 13-1 was the marker in the bathroom too. Okay? Why is that so important? Because it's blood on the shower wall. Well, why is blood on the shower wall important? Here's why it's important. Because it's got the defendant's DNA and Miss Dillon's. Well, why is that important? Because he took a shower. Well, why is taking a shower important? Because he was trying to cover up evidence. Well, why is that important? Because it shows that this wasn't a mercy killing. He wanted to wash himself of the crime he just committed and get rid of the evidence. This wasn't a mercy killing. Well, I loved her so much I wanted to put her out of her misery. This was him controlling her, stabbing her to death. And his consciousness of guilt, knowing that was all over. He goes to that shower, washes that blood off. His blood and hers mixed together on the shower wall after he stabbed her. Cuts on his hands showed. That's how he was bleeding. 13-1. This canvas, his blood drips on this canvas as he's walking to that bathroom. These jeans, blood, his blood, her blood mixed together. He doesn't take a shower and then call 911 after this mercy killing. No, he changes clothes and leaves town. He goes to the bank, withdraws $300, and drives to West Tennessee. Why does he drive to West Tennessee? So that he can give a false report later that evening. Well, I wasn't even in town. I got home, I go in, and find my wife who's dying of cancer, stabbed to death. Think about that. He creates this story. He leaves town in order to create a story. To create a story. Now his story is different today. Now it's back to us, mercy. It's not. He was aware of his actions. He was a controlling person. He exercised that control that day effectively. Slide. He walked to this position here on October the 19th and removed a butcher knife. Took it into the next room while she was sitting on a couch, ladies and gentlemen. You know how you can tell she was surprised? There's an ashtray, armchair, that couch. How do you know? He walks around. He wasn't in the kitchen yelling and screaming, I'm coming to stab you. You know that. There's nothing even disturbed on the couch. There's a remote control on the armchair, the chair. It's not knocked over. She was surprised. She was surprised. She wasn't planning on dying that day. She wanted to live. He got that knife, went into the room, and demonstrates how he walks to the other side of her, gets on the couch, and goes at her. And as she's surprised, she reacts. What would you do? Hands in the air, hands trying to fight off these stabs, stabs, stabs. You know she wasn't planning on dying that day. She's planning on living. She wanted to live. Ashtray, remote control, Hershey's Kisses, it's still there. Never able to get off the couch. Surprise. 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 By the way, this dog is perfectly healthy. Walking around. So. Cover up. Knife in the sink. Look at the lab results. His blood, her blood, their DNA together right here. Drops the knife in the sink, their blood together. Goes into the TV room, takes off the blue jeans. His blood drips on the canvas, takes the shower. Next slide. Towel. His DNA, her DNA, in the bathroom, all part of the cover.
You mentioned Mikey that the deputies that showed up really trying to kind of shift the blame, like to kind of throw them off. Yeah.
Shift the blame.
I mean, I didn't try to tell a story after the bullshit story. And
You heard that video from Joe earlier, and now me again. Here's why that's important. He's shifting the blame. On October the 19th, he blames Mikey Dillo. Today, he's blaming the victim. Think about that. He's blaming Susan Dillo, who's not allowed to tell her side of the story. Shifting the blame. Shifting the blame. Shifting the blame. This was a premeditated, intentional killing. There's nothing less.
I feel like we gotta talk about is the, when we brought the dog out to you in the car. I mean, it, whatever. Never. Did you strangle the dog? Never.
Is the dog still alive? Do you know? No idea.
No idea.
No, they.
Do you know why? What happened to the dog happened? Why did that happen?
Why did it happen? Why did it happen? Well, on October the 19th, he said it was Mike Dillo. And he says, he confronted after his admission. Next question. Trying to control that man right there. Didn't want to give him full answer. Next question. Next question. Next question. Hard to answer the tough questions. But we already know the answer. What happened to the dog? Video proof and his testimony today. He put his hands on the neck a little bit and squeezed it to death. To death. For what reason? For the same reason killed Susan Dillo. Because he could. Because he was in control. His decision. The pretense of a peace offering. Hershey's Kisses. Think about that. According to his testimony today, they were in a bad argument. That morning. I had to kind of drill down to get him to admit, yes, they were in a bad argument. It's an argument. He brings a peace offering, Hershey's Kisses, followed by butcher. Think about that. That's pretty good. Think about that. You get into a bad argument, you're not really over it. You're still mad. You're still in control. You walk in, you lay down those Hershey's Kisses, pretense, peace offering. You take her by surprise. You stab her because you're in control. I got two more slides to quickly show you. That will show you that Miss Dillo wanted to live. Right here. You'll get to see the language. And I asked him as he testified, how does your DNA, Mr. Brazil, get under her fingerprints? My argument to you is fight for her life. She didn't want to die, she wanted to live. The only thing she had to fight with was her hands, arms. She wanted to live. His argument to you, and this is where you really have a job to do when you go to deliberate. Ultimately, it's the job of every jury is to determine credibility. Who's telling the truth and who's not. And this image, and I hate even showing it, but it is a perfect balancing test for what you're going to do in evaluating credibility. Because his argument to you, or the witness stand today, is that this cut right here was to keep her from feeling pain. That's what he said today. If you believe that this cut was to keep her from feeling pain, then you're probably going to believe the rest of the story that it was a merciful. But if you believe the medical exam and the balance of credibility, that this is a defensive one, then you know that Ms. Dillow was trying to live. I'm done with power. In the words of the defendant, my next question to you, how are you going to weigh this evidence? It should be framed like this. Did Ms. Dillow want to live? She did. She fought for her. She did not want to die. But he was determined to kill. He used his control authority over her. I'm asking you to render a verdict guilty of first-degree murder.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's noon. I've got an 18-page final charge to give you. Are you okay to do that now, or do you feel like you need a lunch recess? And then we're going to let you, I can either charge you now or let you go to lunch and come back and we'll read this to you. Do you have a preference? Let's just go to lunch. I think that might be better for everybody, give you a clear head and a full stomach. I would remind you, you've now heard all of the evidence and you've heard all the closing arguments, but you haven't heard my final set of instructions, which gives you legal definition of the crimes that you have to decide whether or not the defendant is guilty. So please do not discuss this case again. Don't let anyone discuss it with you, and go have a good lunch, and we'll see you back here at 1:15, and we'll give you your final instructions and let you begin your deliberations. Now, after I've read that next set of instructions, we're going to select one of you to be the alternate, and that person will go ahead and be released. And that person's going to get a free lunch, even though you're not going to be one of the jurors. So if you'll go to lunch and then come back and be here at a little after 1, please. We'll resume at 1:15. We'll stand in recess pending your return. All rise. Back.